So, John, first off, congratulations on your TEDxOakland talk. For people that are watching that are wondering, what is it like to work with Ryan? What is it like to go through the process of becoming a TEDx speaker? I'd love to get some insights from you because you've done it and you can provide your own perspective. Love to start out with, first off, who are you? Like, give us a quick bio so people understand who is this John person? What does he do?
Sure.
You know, all that stuff.
So my name is John Hittler, and that really is my name. I'll spell it for you. Let's clean that up. It's John for anybody that doesn't quite know him. So that's fine. I'm a transformational business coach in Silicon Valley, San Jose, California. I coach CEOs one-on-one to transform their company and kind of get what they want. So that's who I am professionally. I've written 2 books. I've always wanted to do a TED Talk. So interesting, I was actually accepted for a TED event, and I canceled after I talked to Ryan because what I didn't check, I just never thought of it, was he said, afterwards you get this video that's great for marketing purposes, but it goes online and it represents you. And I went and checked previous events from this venue, and it looked like somebody had filmed it on a flip phone from 2003 with the same audio quality. And I thought, oh, right, no raised stage, no decent lighting, and bad. And I thought, okay, I'm out. I would have never thought of that because I would have thought, yay, I got on stage, but I got on a stage that nobody else wanted to go to. So I canceled that, signed up for your course. That was great because once I realized there's 2 games involved. One is to put on a great speech, but having a great talk or a great presentation and not getting on stage, you have to win the first game first. The game of getting on stage, which means you have to do applications and all that. And I applied to, 50 or 60 to get into the first one. And I won a dog poop eating contest. Yay, I won the contest, but their venue was dog poop. I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. So when I signed up for the course, I thought, you know what? I've got to win the first game, which is to get on the right stage that fits well, and then worry about my topic and all that other stuff. So that's kind of how I got to stage. The funny part is after taking your course is you and I talked a lot about it, and it was really clear. Getting on stage is a whole process, crafting your speech, but applying the right way to the right places and vetting and all that and knowing the game. On my second application, I got in. And the first one was funny. I applied to a place that was, I'll call them ultra rich hippies in the Bay Area. And I applied, and the response I got, usually they're polite. I had gotten declines before, which is thanks for your application, we'll consider it, which meant they deep sixed it. That's fine.
Right.
But this response was vitriolic, I thought, especially for TED. It said, Dear John, we got your application. Why would we ever consider having a middle-aged white business coach on our stage? That was it. No respectfully, no sincerely. And I thought, wow, that's not very TED-like. Ideas worth considering. I thought, man, these people are not very TED-friendly. So that we kidded. I kidded you a little bit about that. I thought, okay, there's my now they got me mad. That was the first one. That was my first one, and I got the decline. And I was only in the Bay Area, so that was a Bay Area venue. And then I applied to the second one, which was in Oakland, and completely different response. He said, I don't even know whether we're going to hold our event this year. It was the 3rd year of a venue. But if not, I know people in Sacramento and I know somebody in the Bay Area. I'll help you to get on stage because this talk needs to go. Same talk. So, right. It's just applying right. And so I only had to deal with applying to 2 after taking a course, which for me was a huge deal because the last thing I wanted my life to be about was applying to 50 talks. I just wasn't interested in that. My time is worth more than that. But I don't have the attention span to fill out 50 of these applications. I just don't. And then track them and all that. I get it that there's a process there, but I was not going to apply to 50. So 2 worked for me. I applied to 1, waited. I got the instant response. And the second one, I also got pretty much an instant response. I was going to do 1 at a time until I got one. Second one, I got in. Fabulous. Just that made the course alone worth it, because it's the game. I won the game of getting on stage. Then whatever I did on stage is a different game. Fine. I recognize there's two games there, and most people look at it and say, I got this great topic, they should let me on stage. That's not the game. Getting on stage is a different game than doing a great job on stage. They're two separate things, and you separated that really, really well, because my topic definitely was altered a little bit in the way I presented it by playing the first game. If you get on stage with one premise, you can't then go back and do a bait and switch, but that was fine. My presentation was a little bit different and better because I did all the prep work in the course. So it was a great investment of time and money.
That's a really, like, so that's a distinction I try to ram down people's throats all the time, is like, it doesn't matter how good of a speaker you are, because if you can't get on stage, no one ever sees your great speech. And I don't know if this is you or not. A lot of people that I talk to that are speakers, they get referrals, right? So they deliver talk, someone in the audience hears them and goes, yeah, that was a good speech. I'm going to invite you to go to my company or my friend's event or what have you. And again, they're playing game number 2. They're playing the game of, I'm a great speaker and I do a great job on stage. I'm very comfortable in front of people. I know how to present, whatever else. They've never had to play the first game.
Right.
And especially they never had to play to somebody who doesn't know them, doesn't know their background, has never heard them speak before. Right. Everyone that's applying to these events, these TEDx events, they're a great speaker too, right? That is not a differentiating factor. Cool.
Well, that was part of what I learned in the course, is that this concept of automatic no. If you present yourself not according to the rules of getting on stage per a curator or whoever has the license, you're dead. You put all the time, effort into building a great presentation and applying, and you're dead on arrival because of the way you presented it. Oh, that's a game. Right. So you have to present it in a way that piques their interest and has them play. It's just a different game. The game is getting on stage. And the truth is, people don't, you can't win the Super Bowl if you can't get to the Super Bowl. And people say, but we had a great team. Yeah, but you lost in the playoffs. You never made it. Right. So you never get to play. So nobody knows whether you could have won a Super Bowl because you never got in the game. And they're two very different games. One is taking a one-on-one conversation, essentially, online with whoever has the license for the event. And the other one is then delivering a kick-ass speech. Right. I was confident of the second one, but I didn't realize that whole first game. And that's where your course was fabulous. Yeah. It was also fun to work with other speakers. It was fun to hear, because the guys that were in our group on the calls and whatnot, right. Very diverse. I'm thinking, who would want that speech? And then I get to know them a little bit and go, that's a super cool speech. It's not something I might be that interested in, but it was very TED-ish. I'd say that's now that I know what he's doing and I know how he's positioning it, really interesting concept. And it was kind of fun. I'm going all kinds of, for all across the spectrum, from middle-aged white business coaches to artists to philanthropists. And you say, oh, okay, cool. They all have a really interesting take. And that was what I was also impressed with, was that everybody in our group, even during the conference call, somebody said, I got accepted. I'm in. And you go, wow, that's super cool. You could root for them and say, this process works. So I liked that. It was fun to root for people and team with people and cheer them on. And I've stayed in touch with a couple of them. And,
cool.
Which is kind of fun. So.
Yeah. Actually, so if it's Zach you're referring to, the piano teacher, I'm taking one of his courses right now because I've got his keyboard over here, and I was. Oh,
the piano superhuman guy.
Yeah.
I've got it on my list. I've got it on my list to do this year. I have a piano in my house. I've taken lessons a couple of times and then stopped. And part of the reason is they make you do scales. And once I have to do scales, it's like, it's like going to a fitness trainer. He says, all we're going to do is run wind sprints. That's it. You say, I can't run wind sprints every day. It's too boring. Not that I'm physically incapable. You say, practicing scales. I don't want to do that. I want to sit down and play something. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to. I've got an interesting question for you, but
sure.
Link to Zach's. So Zach is another client of mine. I will link to his TEDx talk as well, so that people I'll link to yours as well, so people can see both of them. You and Zach, very different people, both in terms
Very
of
different people, very different outlooks, very different methodologies. Right.
More different in terms of what you do. But I'm curious. I mean, you're an experienced guy. You did a lot of speaking. Why do you think it was that you never figured out that there was these two distinct games being played ever before?
The way that I figured it out in the course, it was very clear, but I had talked to several clients who said, I've always wanted to do a TED talk. It just seems like a hassle, or seems like a lot of work. Or I knew people that said, I've applied for 3 years in a row and I just never got on stage. And those are the ones I thought, no, my subject matter expertise is in genius talent. My genius talent is all around rigging games, playing games, figuring out the rules, and going in the back door and winning. It was imminently clear to me, because these were smart, interesting people with something to say, that there was definitely a game before the game, which is you got to get in, you got to get on stage. And you made that perfectly clear. You said all of your marketing materials and all of your invitations were, look, there's a whole process for getting on stage, and you better either do that right. And for me, it was a time and money thing. I could have figured out the game and rigged it, because I'm very, very good at that, but it would have been super inefficient. I would have done it by trial and error and figured it all out. You already had the game rigged and said, if you're going to do it this way. And there were times when I kind of fought that a little and said, do you really have to do that? I remember when you said, you need to go do this exercise. I thought, I already know that. I know my audience. I know their reaction. I know this and that. But I went and did it, and I thought, wow, did I learn a ton there? That changed my application, which made it easier to get on stage. Good. Super efficient, because I invested 2 hours in doing the homework or the assignment and saved myself 10, 20, 30 rejections. That's where the course was super helpful, because the game of getting on stage is very, very different about the game of crushing it on the day of the presentation.
Right.
They're just very different games with different strategies. One's all about preparation and doing a great job in presenting and being charismatic and electric and all that stuff. The other one is about process and figuring out who the licensee is, what they're doing. They're just super super distinct games, and people look at it all as one. As I'm going to give a TED talk.
I'm a great speaker.
You can't give a TED talk if you can't get on stage. Yeah. So it was. No, I get it, because you can't guarantee that my talk's going to be any good. You don't play that game. You help.
That's right.
You can promise with relative certainty that you'll get me on stage. Good. Then it's up to me to suck or to be great.
Right.
Fine. Fair enough.
I'm not Toastmasters. Like if you're watching this and you're afraid of speaking in front of 10 people, and the act of doing any public speaking terrifies you, Toastmasters is a great resource for that.
It is.
My sweet spot is people who are already comfortable on stage. Like you're already doing it. You're already like, yeah, I see myself as a great presenter. And they're either getting turned down, right? And a lot of people think it's their fault, or they're not qualified enough, or the industry is, I think
it's just a matter of time. I think it's just a matter. If I applied enough, a bad application 100 times is going to get turned down 100 times. And a good application submitted properly to 10 decent venues, probably you're going to get it in 10. Way more efficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably less than 10 actually. And another one, like to go back to this, I'll put a link that shows the difference between a good event and a bad event. The difference is stark. So a lot of people, when they envision a TEDx talk, they envision the ones they've seen.
Right.
They've never seen the bad ones. Right. It's like when you think about writing a book, everyone always envisions their book being in a bookstore and being on Oprah or whatever. They don't envision their book being full of typos and having a bad cover design and having, 30 sales. It's only their family and friends. You don't think about that.
Yep.
The only books you've read are the ones that are good that people have recommended to you. And the same thing is true with TEDx talks. I talked to one guy who had done three TEDx talks and not a single one was even filmed.
Crazy. Why do it?
Right. But he didn't know. That's the thing. Like, until you show up in the event, if you're not aware of the fact that the quality varies quite drastically, you would never know. It's not his fault, right? He just didn't know. Cool.
Well, that was the other thing that was super valuable in the course is right off the bat, you were the one that said, "Oh, you already got approved." I don't know whether I think you had said check.
I told you I don't need either. You know all these people, so you have a pretty powerful network, frankly. And I was like, man, just go call up Mr. Fink or whoever, Mr. Cynic, and get them to connect you. Seems pretty easy, right? And then you told me about the other. I don't know what order you told me about those things, but I initially told you, just try it on your own. You don't need me. And then you came back.
Well, what I did, and you had said, double check the audio and video quality, because at the end, what you get is a video of yourself. It either looks like a flip phone from, pre-smartphone days, or is there simple things like, is there a raised stage where it looks like you're in front of an audience, or are you walking onto the same floor in a high school gym and the people are 4 feet away from you and it looks like in somebody's living room? And I started looking at it saying, oh my God, every one of this is a terrible venue. The acoustics were bad. The lighting was bad, shadowy. You couldn't hear the videos. And I thought, what a waste of time. Why put all the time and effort for preparing? Because it's going to, it's going to be the same investment to end up with something that makes you look like a crappy speaker because they don't invest in sound and lighting on stage. And I thought, I would have never thought of that. Because like you say, I've watched videos. You see the ones that are pretty good. You don't see the ones that, because nobody watches the ones that have, if they have bad audio and you can't hear it.
The best quality ones, right? YouTube's not going to recommend one that's poor quality, right?
So that was super helpful.
Yeah. The other downside of playing the numbers game, it's time consuming, right?
It's super time consuming. But the energy involved.
Pardon me?
Getting 100 rejections, after a while you say, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm not going to. After a while, you can say, oh, I'm determined and I'm going to stick with this. But how many rejections, or even worse, is not even rejections, you just don't hear. So then I got to follow up. Oh, I gave them 3 weeks. I haven't heard anything. Should I check back? Well, now it's not me applying to 100. It's me applying to 100 and following up with 100. That's 200. That's even worse. And
and the biggest thing about playing the numbers game, applying to a lot, is by virtue of statistics, you're going to get invited to the events first that are the poorest quality.
Sure.
The ones no one else is applying for. No one else knows about. The ones that are the massive stage with a great audience, that a lot of people are in the audience, in the room, a lot of people are on the email list. That's the one everyone wants to speak at.
Yep.
For a very good reason.
Yep.
And so you play the numbers game and you're spending way more time, and it's way more likely you're going to get selected at one you're going to be disappointed.
Not very good. Yeah.
So,
and ours was the third year. They have good, it was in a community college. So they've got a performing arts center with backdrops and a raised stage and professional lighting and professional sound and good videos, 6 different camera angles. You say,
oh, wow. All right.
Oh no! Well, they know what to do, and they do it at the same place every year too. So they know the venue because it's their third time doing it. That helped. I would have never thought of that stuff. I would have just said, "Oh yeah, how hard is sound and video?" Or I wouldn't have even thought that. I would have just said, "Of course, I love sound and video." But you don't know. I don't know anything about sound or video except when it's crappy. Then I say, "Oh, that's crappy sound and video." You just assume it's going to be good. Yeah,
of course.
See, even practical things like that. Because I wiped out some venues that I looked at to even apply on my list. I was not going to travel, so it was going to be Bay Area. But there's like 40 in the Bay Area, but some of them were horrendous. And the one I was accepted to was in San Jose. And when I went and double checked, I think at your recommendation, I said, "Uh-oh, I'm out. And it was a university. And when I called the curator, because it was a professor, I said, "Isn't this the TV and video production majors at the university?" And she said, no. This is mostly, it's put on with freshmen as an elective who want an A. They want an easy A. So they figure do intro to television and whatnot, and they film the darn thing on an iPhone. And no lavalier mics, and they do it in a classroom, basically on a flat floor. They were terrible. I went back 2 years and I thought maybe it was better years. No, she said it's an intro to TV and video, and it's freshmen. And I thought, they don't care. They're just there to get an A. These aren't the guys that are serious about it. I'm thinking it's majors or grad students that say, oh yeah, this is a super high-end production quality, and they know what they do and they love it. No, it was just the opposite. And once she told me that, I thought, I'm out, because I knew you got people, it'd be like you or me saying, I'm in charge of sound and video. And we've never done it before in our life. It's not that we wouldn't try, we just don't know what we're doing. And that's what this was.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
awesome. What we talked about a lot of stuff. You covered a lot of the questions I wanted to get from you. Is there anything else? Actually, one thing that a lot of people are unsure of that want to do a TEDx talk is, well, can I actually, how do I actually get a talk that's up to my standards? So they envision doing a TEDx talk one day and think, well, I'll refine my message as I go, because I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I'm doing. I'm thinking about my thing, thinking about my idea, and eventually I'll get to a point where I feel ready, right? Or my message is good enough, because it'll get better over time, right?
Yep.
What was it that made you go from wanting to do it to realizing okay, I'm ready right now to craft my message and get on stage, and this is something I can go do, versus something that will just pop into my head one day after I've served the 50th clients of the year? So,
It's a great question. I would say it happened over time, because one of the things I do as a habit, you're getting dressed in the morning, you get out of the shower, and it takes me from time to getting dried off to being dressed doesn't take me but 10 or 12 minutes. Perfect amount of time for a TED talk, and most of them aren't visual. So I'll just have it on my laptop sitting on the bed, because I can listen to it while I'm getting dressed. So I have a habit of doing that. So I listen to TED Talks. I like them. And, I would take a chance on anyone, because if I listen to one every day, some are going to be really interesting. Some are going to be like, this guy's, I don't like his subject matter. Not that they do a bad job, but I just go, I picked a loser today by my interest. So I was all around it. And you start building this conversation with yourself and say, should I do one or not? I didn't need to do one. I've always thought it was fascinating. I've always enjoyed being in front of a live audience. I normally am more interactive than a speech, I learned that one is broadcasting. The TED Talk's broadcasting. It's not playful and interactive.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer playful and interactive. I'm normally doing teaching or coaching. That was fine. But what I realized was, look, if you're going to do this, figure out what an investment, mostly of time, because that, for me, that was, I've also written books, and people said, I don't have time to write a book. And I didn't have time to write a book either. What I learned is I can write a book in 90 days just by setting up a habit of writing 2.5 hours once a week for 90 days in 2.5, because I can sit down and I don't get writer's block. TED was the same thing. I had to realize, do I want to put the time and effort into this? Because it's a project. And do I want my message to get out there? And I got the encouragement from lots of people that said, the world needs the message you have. Why don't you start posting? They wanted me to post videos online. And I said, well, the best venue for that probably is something like a TED Talk, where I don't have to do it to my audience and hope it catches on. I do it to a TED's audience, and you catch on. It's a more universal message. So I said, okay, that's fine. For me, it's the same reason I wrote books. The lady that encouraged me to write a book first, very dear friend of mine, she's 2-time bestseller, said, why do you want to write a book? And I said, well, everybody keeps saying it's a great marketing thing. It's like the new business card, write a book and then you get instant credibility. And I said, I could give a crap about that. And she said, and she was the only one that said, what would make you write a book? And you could do the same thing. What would make you go on stage for a TED Talk? Do the work. And I said, if I could help somebody, she said, then write to help somebody. And as soon as she said that, I started writing the next day. Same with the TED Talk. Once I realized my message might change somebody's life or might help somebody or might move somebody forward in life, happy to do it. If it was about self-promotion or out marketing or all other stuff, yes, you get all that, but that wasn't my motivation. So figure out, or my purpose, figure out what would have you do it. If it's ego-driven, that's fine. Do it for ego-driven. Say, I want to be the first person to get to 50 million views. It's a good purpose if that's what drives you. And if you want to do it because you say, you know, there's a small segment of the population that fits my talk and I could help them, do it for that reason. If you do it for fun, do it for that reason. But figure out why you want to do it, because it is work, it is time, it is inconvenient. You know, at times when you say, oh, my venue makes me have a recorded version 4 weeks ahead of time so they can vet. That's inconvenient for me. Well, okay, so you have to sit with a computer at home or a video at home, film yourself and send it in, and then they give you feedback. There is a process. There's effort. You don't just show up on game day and say, you've never heard anything about my topic other than what I applied for and I'm ready to go. There's, TED has standards, so it's. I knew it was a project. So that's what I would encourage people who are thinking about it. I know tons of people who have thought about it for years and they just haven't done it. Is it because it's a project? It's a fun project. And for me, I really enjoyed it. I learned a ton. I learned all kinds of stuff I didn't think I would learn because I just didn't know. But I did know it was going to be a process and a project. And I'm not a process person. I'm a rule breaker. So that's not a linear process is not a great fit for me. I struggle with linear processes. I'm better at breaking out of jail than I am getting into jail. I will be put in jail probably a lot faster than I will. I'll break out of a jail faster than I'll get put into jail. But because I'm good at that. But yeah, I couldn't cheat the system, if you will. So I had to kind of decide I'm willing to put up the time and effort because it will help somebody. The purpose outweighed, if you will, the inconvenience. And
Thanks
so
for putting up with me for, I will say though, like a lot of people really do think that TEDx is just this magical thing. Like once you're famous enough, somebody plucks you off the street. So in a way, you actually did break the process for what a lot of people assume.
Yeah, and I have encouraged, in fact, several of my clients now, because I coach CEOs, and they're the same way. They say, I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm doing this and that and the other thing. Some of them are doing some super interesting things. One of them is doing a TED Talk. Sorry, he's done with it. He did it in early December. He doesn't have the video yet. He's a contractor for Elon Musk's space program. So he's the guy you don't see. He actually does the work. Elon Musk lies to Wall Street and tells them they're ahead of schedule when they're not. And then this guy actually has to do the work, but nobody knows who he is. And I said, and so they've got this gigantic contract that they just signed. He said, we're going to quadruple our company. I said, what's your biggest challenge? Hiring. And I said, you know what? If you do a TED Talk, you can use it to find people to hire. How do you differentiate yourself and find talent? And he said, that's been our biggest challenge. And I said, don't do the talk as a recruitment video for talent. Do the talk and then use it to attract talent, because people say, oh, this guy did a cool talk. I'd love to work at that company. And he said, I never thought of that. And I said, yeah. And so he has been invited to many, because everybody's interested in the space program, no matter what you're doing. And he'll have his video probably any day now. He did a talk in the middle of December. He'll have his pretty soon. And I said, have your marketing people cut it into 60-second splices and use it for recruitment. He said he had never thought of it. He said, and he got invited like 3 weeks before the event. They picked him and said, would you please speak? So he had a different path to getting on stage, right? But he's going to use it for recruitment. I said, it's the perfect vehicle. It's more efficient than hiring, posting jobs online and hoping that 1 million people apply, which they do, 999,000 of which you don't want to talk to. You now reverse that and start using yours for that reason. And he said it's worked. He thinks that'll work really well. So, and their whole marketing department said, finally, we've got a leg up in recruiting, because his thing now is he's got to scale his company and hire tons of people. in a very specialized field. They don't just hire people and say, we'll turn you into an aeronautical engineer. You got to find guys that have a master's or a PhD in aeronautical engineer and move to where he is in the world. He's in the United States, but he's not in a main area, because they have to be out in a place where you've got lots of land. Because
okay, yeah.
It's a specific recruitment thing. And said recruiting has been very, very difficult, and that's his biggest thing why he might fail is recruitment. He said, do a talk and use it for recruitment. He just never thought of that.
Right.
So he was the first one, but he got invited. He said, I get invited 4 or 5 times a year to do TED Talks. I just always turned it down because I don't have the time. He finally accepted it once he realized, I can use this for my purpose. That was his purpose. I've suggested to some other CEOs that they do the same thing, because recruitment of talent in specialized industries. We're in Silicon Valley. Talent is the number one problem. There's tremendous competition for talent. And how do you differentiate yourself, especially if you're a startup? People say, well, I like the idea of a startup and becoming a millionaire when we go public, but what if I pick the wrong startup?
Right.
So,
hey, John, I'd love to get to, so before we,
sure.
I got to go shortly. I would love to hear from you. If you were providing advice or, I don't know, a word of encouragement to people, what would be your advice to somebody who is thinking of doing a TEDx talk? They're a good speaker. They're good at what they do, right? So they're not an amateur. They're a good presenter. They're comfortable on stage. Maybe not 100% sure if they could do it or if I could really help them. And if what I have to do, like you've experienced it, or like if what I have will work for them, what would you say to them?
Yep. Decide first that you want to do it, and then get help. I had help from you to get on stage, which is the first game. I also hired help to make my speech good, because it was just more efficient and it was less risky to say, look, if a professional speaking coach helps me, my speech is going to be better by someone else's professional advice versus what I think. It's the difference between how I view myself and how the world views me. Well, they prepped me really well. Once I got in the game, and you helped me with that, that was just an efficiency model. I mean, I enjoyed the course, but did I want to take a course? No, I just figured that's the smarter, more efficient way to do it, and well worth the investment. The ROI was astronomical, just because I wouldn't have wasted, my time is worth way more than the price of the course. Good. But decide you want to do it and figure out your reason why. That was super helpful for me to say, do I want celebrity? No, I could care less about that. Does it hurt? No, but that wasn't why I did it. So once I figured out why I want to do it, then it was an easy decision. Oh, how do I get on stage? Once you make that decision, because people I think are kind of curious about it and say, oh, I'm better than that person. I could do it better. Get rid of all that. Figure out, are you going to do it or not, and why? And then get started. And my strong advice is hire out to somebody. If you've never done a TED Talk, it's a specific skill to get on stage. Hire you because you know how to do that, and you'll save them tons of time and effort. And then I would also encourage them to get help. TED requires that you have a speaking coach, but get a good speaking coach.
Yeah. There's some events that have that as part of the volunteer team as well. Yeah.
It can be volunteer or it can be paid, but get somebody to help, and but get help and make it, because then you'll enjoy the process instead of saying, oh my God, I'm surprised. Every time I turn a corner, there's more work to do. It doesn't feel like that. When somebody says, here's the expectations, you're going to have to invest this much time to get on stage. Helpful. I wouldn't have known that. I would have just applied and applied and applied and applied and applied and applied and applied. And I did, and eventually got in, and then I got into a crappy venue.
Yeah.
Save all the hassle.
How many events did you apply for before you reached out to me?
Well, I applied until I got accepted in this one in San Jose. I probably applied to 25 or 30. Yeah, because I just said I'm going to spend 2 or 3 days and just do all my applications in 2 or 3 days, which was me like gouging my eyes out with a stick, because I'm not good at close-in work. And then I heard back, and like you say, I heard back fairly quickly, and I didn't realize that I just won a crappy contest. Oh, I got accepted by a lousy venue. Yeah. And I was like, yay, I won. No, I didn't win. I actually lost. I didn't know that I had lost until you gave me some criteria. You said, check this, check this, check this. I was like, oh yeah, this is a lousy venue. This is the last thing I want.
Right.
So,
Cool.
yeah, and that's when I got serious and said, I need to learn how to win the game of getting on the right stage.
Cool.
Oh, okay, that's a different game.
Right. That's all I got for you, John. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
As just a general endorsement, for me, I have a minimum standard that if things aren't fun, I'm out. And the course was fun. So it was work, but it was fun, and you learn a lot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing work for work's sake, like working out, but even workouts, I like doing them when they're more fun, like in a group, than do 100 push-ups by yourself at your house. That's not fun. I don't do that sort of stuff. So as a general endorsement, it was enjoyable. It was fun. You did it like the piano superhuman guy. Would I have ever met that guy in my life? No. I remember there were other people on the calls too. That was all fun. You're doing it with a group. You're doing it with, it's playful enough. It wasn't rigorous, like you can't have fun with it or make a joke or tell a sidebar story or whatnot. That's super helpful too. The process was fun, and I think part of it, the reason it was fun, because people were winning. If it was take the course and we'll see how you do, and 1 and 3 gets on stage, you'd say, gosh, what if I'm one of the 2 and 3 that doesn't? That's not so fun. But it was kind of like, I'm sure that you have some people that don't make it, but the success rate is so darn high.
Yeah.
I do the work and I play full out and I work with other people and take the advice, and I'm coachable, if you will. Yeah. I'm going to win. That makes the whole thing worth playing.
And there's a lot of fun. People, the thing that is immediately obvious whenever you talk to you for more than like 30 seconds is you're a fun person to interact with, right? And so like that's one of my criteria, if you will. Is like
I bring that to everything, and people that aren't willing to be playful or fun, I don't do very well with. Most people appreciate that, even at the grocery store checkout line. Just to make their day a little bit by joking around or having a little bit of fun with them. It doesn't cost anything. Same with the course. You could do it like hard work and drudgery. Yeah. Who wants to do that? Some people do, and I don't want to do that. So, and nobody in our program did that. People were playfully kidding each other and having a good time. Always encouraging, always positive. But if they could take a good-natured little jab at you, fine. There was nothing. There's no reason not to, and everybody had a good time with it. We were kidding about it, and everybody took a little bit of ribbing, and everybody gave a little ribbing. That makes it good.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's all we got today. If anybody wants to see John's talk, I will link to that one, and Zach, the piano superhuman guy, as well, because we talked about, like, it's a fun experience. I love talking to you guys and everything. And I'll leave a link as well to book a call with me. We talk about if you were a good fit. I don't invite everyone to work with me, as I'm pretty picky about making sure that you're going to get results. But certainly we will get clear on what's preventing you from becoming a TEDx speaker. Make sure you've got a plan for how to change the world, frankly, and make sure you've got a topic and everything, like a plan for how to do that if I'm the right fit for you. So
it's great.
John, congratulations again on becoming a TEDx speaker. It's awesome to work with you. And
it's part of the world domination tour. That's what I'm calling it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be that, but now that the ego went to my head, I'm going on the world domination tour. So why not?
All right. Thank you again, sir.